What's going on, YouTube? So the new Traverse certainly made a splash when it came out earlier this year, making people reconsider if they're going to buy one of the segment bestsellers. And that's why we're excited to have the latest 2025 model in the driveway for the last week, which already has a new trim level and more features this year. So, after living with this new Traverse, is this a 3-row midsize SUV that you should have at the top of your shopping list? Well, let's go ahead and find out. So getting started here with our spec dump, what you'll find under the hood is just one powertrain option. It's a 2.5 liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine. It makes 328 horsepower. That's going to be paired to an 8-speed automatic transmission, and we are setting at 21 mpg combined for this all-wheel drive model.
Now, of course, we'll be putting that fuel economy to the test by giving you our real-world fuel economy over the past week. We'll also be doing things like giving you our sound level reading in our home state of Kentucky's roads. After that, we'll discuss resale reliability as well.
But let's go ahead and close up the hood, because a big thing about the Traverse that's getting a lot of attention is the exterior design. Now, before I talk about the exterior design, I do want to go ahead and mention trim level adjustments for 2025. We still have 4 trim levels, but they're not the same 4 as before. Even though this model has only been on sale for a few months, this new model year, they are making a new trim level called the High Country trim level. That is kind of positioned very close to the RS trim level as another top-end model that you can choose, and we'll talk about what that changes throughout the entire video. Now, I also want to point out you've lost the base trim, though, so you can no longer get the LS. It starts at the LT trim level. Now, as far as the exterior design is concerned itself, this is a very handsome model. Obviously, it does have this brand new look for Chevy, which is kind of more boxy and more aggressive looking. This is the RS trim level for today's tester, meaning that we've got the full gloss black finish on the grille, the blacked out bow tie emblem as well, and there are slight differences between the other trim levels that I already mentioned. Now, moving over here to our lighting, we have standard projector LED headlights. That's going to be this unit right here in the middle. As you can see, we don't have any fog lights or anything like that, but separated up at the top, you have a daytime running light and turn signal indicator. If you choose the High Country or the RS trim level, it's also going to have the dynamic effect. And then walking around to the rear, honestly, it is just as handsome as the front.
Yeah, I love the way this Traverse looks, especially fully blacked out. I think it looks so good. Now, as far as some of the individual design elements, we have a spoiler, we have an exposed wiper. This piece is actually going to be black, regardless of which exterior color you choose. And then as far as our taillights are concerned, let's check those out. Drew hopped inside so we can see if all the elements are LED. We have an LED brake light portion, LED reverse light, and then also an LED turn signal indicator. The taillights are also going to have the animation ability as well, just like the front. As we drop down to the lower fascia, all of this is going to be finished in either a piano black or body color, depending on which model you choose. Additionally, the tow rating is 5,000 pounds, and you're going to get quad exhaust outlet standard on every Traverse.
Now, as far as wheels are concerned, you start out with 18-inch alloy options. And then on your top trim levels, which would be the RS and the High Country, you can get a standard 22-inch alloy wheel. That is very large for the segment. You're going to have different finishes depending on which one you select. And that, of course, is what we have today. I think these look really cool with this overall model being fully blacked out. It just gives it a super aggressive look for the segment. Rising up here to our mirrors, you have standard blind spot monitoring and heating on all models. Both of those top trims I was just mentioning, those are the ones that come with auto dimming on the driver's mirror as well as power folding.
Now, here at the side of the Traverse, you're going to see that this is actually a massive SUV, 204.5 inches long, which means that it's only about 5.5 inches shorter than a Tahoe. That's how big this vehicle is. You're also going to have quite a few different design elements, such as this floating pillar right here, as well as the roof rails up top. Now, when it comes to your safety systems, I'm really happy to tell you that Chevy is including every single one of those as standard equipment on every single Traverse. This is, of course, a family vehicle after all. Now, when it comes to advanced safety features like Super Cruise, that is available here on the Traverse. It's actually standard on RS and High Country, and you can option it on to the 2 lower trim levels as well. It's very impressive. We've actually used that multiple times throughout the week, and it can even work on secondary roads. But guys, there is some changes on the inside that we need to talk about, so let's dive into that. But first,
if you're new here, we're brothers, and we've been reviewing cars since we were 12
and 16. We may be young, but we love cars.
And we'd love for you to subscribe to be a part of our Car Confections family. Let's learn a lot, have some fun with all the latest cars.
Now let's go ahead and check out the inside. First, we'll take a look at the key fob. As you can see, typical Chevy key fob on board. You do have smart entry as well as remote start standard. And then to get inside, just press that chrome button there that will unlock the door since there's not a sensor behind the door handle. And then taking a look at the interior. Obviously, this is a brand new model, so we've got all the latest and greatest in terms of design and technology. Before we get into those individual details, though, we need to talk about our seats. So in the trim structure, you are going to begin with a cloth seat. However, you can also option on Evo-Tex, which is a leatherette. And then both the RS and the High Country trim levels are going to come with real leather. So on this RS, we've got the perforated leather here with the red accents. Black is going to be the only color choice for this model. If you choose the High Country, you do have a black with bronze accents, and then that will also give you additional option of gray if that is something that you want. In terms of the adjustments, you're looking at 12 ways of power adjustment and 4-way lumbar support on all models. And then also you have memory seats located over there on the door trim for both RS and High Country trims. But let's go ahead and get inside. Now, as far as the rest of the cabin materials, let's get into that. We have a leatherette trim across the door trim here for your armrest against. Soft touch plastic along the top. Again, you have the red accents here on the RS trim. You have bronze accents with the High Country. And moving across the top of the dashboard, this is a soft touch plastic with a little stitching detail there. More of the red faux carbon fiber trim running through the center section. That's also where all the ambient lights run at nighttime. And then you have a piano black finish down through here and a little bit of padding along the console. Let's go ahead and fire it up with a standard push button start. And now that's all fired up, let's get into our technology front and start with the gauge cluster. As you can see, we've got a full digital cluster on board. This is an 11-inch display. It's standard on every single version, and you can just very easily use this button here on the steering wheel to cycle between all the different screens, which have a lot of different kinds of information on board. It's good they have plenty of information, though, because you cannot get any additional information via a head-up display. It's not offered on this Traverse at all. It is on the sibling GMC Acadia, though. Now, as far as the steering wheel is concerned, we've got a nice, thick, leather-wrapped steering wheel. It's power, tilt, and telescoping if you choose the High Country or the RS trim levels. Heating is a standard feature, though, which is very nice, and you have a flat bottom design on this RS trim level. Now, let's take a look at interior storage, because what is a giant 3-row SUV if you don't have plenty of places to stick your belongings? And that begins underneath our center console. You'll notice inside we have stuffed donuts. That's because here at Car Confections, that is our logo, and we like to put donuts in the center console to check the volume. Today we have in this center console 19 donuts, so that is pretty impressive for the segment. Some of the rivals can do the full 24, that's our maximum number, but this is really very close to that. And obviously that's not the only storage that this vehicle has. So you'll see in front of that, you have another nice bin right there. You've got 2 deep cup holders, large storage cubby with a standard wireless phone charger on all trims. And then you've got this massive center pass-through, so you can obviously stick just about anything you want down there in that area. The only thing this is missing versus some of the competition is like a dedicated passenger storage shelf. Now, one of the reasons they have so much storage is because up here we have an electronic shifter. It's way out of the way and super easy to use. You're just going to press down for drive. You have paddle shifters on the steering wheel as well, and then go up in the opposite direction for reverse. Now, this is a cool feature I do want to highlight because every single version of this Traverse has a standard 360-degree camera system. That really stands out versus the competition and is super helpful. The only complaint that we have after living with this model is the fact that it's pretty small. As you can see, this screen is very large. I'm getting ready to talk about that. It's super big, but the actual display of the 360 camera is a little on the smaller side, and the cameras are very exposed, so to the elements, we've been having trouble with them getting very dirty and having to clean them off. Now, moving our attention down to this area, let's talk about the climate controls. So we have a standard 3-zone automatic setup on all trim levels. One of the nice things about this model is that even though you can adjust the climate up here in the display like so, you have redundant physical controls. So you can just very quickly, without even taking your eyes off the road, grab these, adjust the temperature up and down, and adjust the fan speed very easily. Some of the additional functions, such as your heated seats, those will be inside of the screen. Heated seats are standard on every single Traverse, and then ventilated seats come on both the RS and the High Country trim levels as standard equipment. All right, let's dive into this giant display next. So this is a 17-inch display. Like I said, you can see that it is very large and really stands out. It does have the latest infotainment system on board, which is a Google-based infotainment system and has Google apps built into it. Right now we have pulled up Google Maps, but you also have things like Google Assistant and your Play Store for additional functions. When I tap into that button right there, you can see you have your additional functions on board, including Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. So I really want to hit this and highlight this. Only the electric General Motors vehicles have eliminated CarPlay and Android Auto. So this is a gas product. So as you can see, here it is. You can indeed use Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. And both of those systems do work really well in terms of the pairing. Now you'll notice over here on the side, integrated right into the display itself, is a volume knob for your audio system. So on your top trims, you have a Bose 10 speaker sound system. That's obviously what we have on this top RS trim. Let's go ahead and give it a sample now. So overall sound quality of this system is pretty good. It's not really going to blow you away. 10 speakers is not a ton for a cabin this large, and it is a little bit of kind of a bass-heavy sound system, which is typical for Bose sound systems. So I wouldn't put it as, one of the best audio systems in the class, but it is fine. Now, taking a look up top there, we've got an auto-dimming mirror. You also have the digital camera rear view mirror. And then I'll go ahead and slide back the sunshade here for our panoramic sunroof. Now, one of the things I wanted to point out is the fact that this is standard on only the RS trim level. All the other trim levels you can option this on. And obviously you do have the power sunshade, which slides back pretty slowly. And then you also have the front panel, which opens up.
Now, when it comes to the rear seat of this Traverse, I think you're going to be so pleasantly surprised. I know I was when this pulled up in the driveway and you get in the back seat, it's like, oh my goodness, there is so much space back here. So let's go ahead and start off by discussing how much legroom we have. 41.5 inches of legroom is what we're looking at, and about 40 inches of headroom. That makes this one of the largest rear seats in the entire segment. It's going to be bigger than Toyota Grand Highlander in the vast majority of any of the rivals. So very impressive space here in the rear area, even for someone who's 5'9" like myself. Now this seat is adjusted to Drew, who is 5'8", and let's see how much knee room we have. We have an impressive over 10 inches of knee room, and my feet can slide up underneath of the seat. Now, speaking of the seat, it does slide forward and back a good distance, and it also is going to have the reclining ability to really maximize your overall comfort. Now, you'll notice that we have captain's chairs. That's going to be included on pretty much every Traverse, so keep that in mind. You will have the captain's chair set up. That means overall seating capacity for this is going to be 7 passenger because you have 3 in the third row. Overall, the captain's chairs are really nice. You have an armrest as well. And as far as features are concerned, here in the center, we have 2 cup holders. Up top, we have our own climate controls down here. Off to the side of that, you'll notice that we have 3-stage heated rear seats. That's standard on High Country and RS trim levels. No ventilated rear seats are offered. Down below, we have 2 USB-C ports and a household outlet as well. Another little storage cubby down there. And then if you look over at the door trim, that's where you're going to find a pretty nice one. It's going to be even padded up on the very top part, leatherette all through the center section. And we have a ton of bottle storage. As you can see, we have the Stanley water bottle. Fits in there, no problems whatsoever. And our vents are going to come right out of the ceiling up here. And let's go ahead and check out the third row, because I think you're going to be pleasantly surprised with this as well. In order to get back here, you just press this button right here. That is going to completely tilt the seat out of the way. And the thing I want to point out about this is super practical, because you wouldn't have to remove a child seat at all. So you could keep it installed and still access the third row. That is actually better than what you'd find on the Tahoe. Now, let's go ahead and hop back here into the third row itself. Now, once I get back here, you will find a lot of space for this segment. We're sitting at about 32 inches of legroom, which is one of the largest offerings, like I said, in the entire midsize segment. Now, as far as overall comfort is concerned, past the specs, I do want to point out your thigh support is pretty darn good as well. My feet can also slide up underneath of the seat. And keep in mind, this seat is slid all the way back in its track. So really, the vast majority of times, if you were using the third row, this seat would be slid forward a little bit more to give you even more space. So I see no reason why an adult actually could not fit here in the third row. Now, as far as features are concerned, we have cup holders. We also have a USB-C port. And then if you look up at the ceiling, it'd probably be a little bit hard for the camera to see, but we do have vents right here that point directly at your face, which is something that a lot of luxury cars could learn from. It keeps you nice and cool or warm here in the third row. As far as our overall third row rating, I'm going to give this fit for the in-laws. Now let's see how much cargo space you have. Now, if you're smart, you might be able to realize that we're probably going to have a lot of cargo space as well, because this thing is big on the outside, which means we're pretty big on the inside. I do want to point out you have a standard power tailgate with the new AutoSense hands-free ability. As far as the space is concerned back here, behind the third row, you're going to be sitting at about 23 cubic feet of space. If we fold the third row down, 57 cubic feet, and as a maximum 97 cubic feet. Now, how does that compare to some of the rivals? Well, that is going to be pretty much the largest option in the entire segment. It pretty much ties Grand Highlander for, like I said, the largest. It's going to be better than Pilot, better than Telluride, better than Palisade. So really impressive stuff back here. Now, you also notice over here on the side that we have buttons to power fold the third row of seats and electronically fold the second row down. So we can do both of those things really with the press of a button. So I'm very happy to tell you that, and that will give you your full 97 cubic feet. And now that we've got those seats folded completely flat with the floor, let's get our cargo length, width, and height figures. This is a Car Confections review after all. So in case you're looking to haul something, overall cargo length is going to be sitting at very impressive 89 inches of length. From behind the second row of seats, you can expect about 51 inches. From behind the third row, about 22 inches of length. Overall width is incredible at about 49 inches. And then height is going to be 32 inches, and that's at your lowest point. It will probably get even more later on. Now, the really nice thing that you haven't seen yet is this. Look at all the underfloor storage. We actually fit all of our camera gear underneath of here. That's for demonstrative purposes. And what I think this would actually be super useful for is maybe putting your groceries down here so they're not going to roll around when you're driving back home from the store. So definitely a lot of practicality when it comes to this new Traverse. Well, guys, here we are behind the wheel of the 25 Chevy Traverse. In this test drive, we're going to be discussing quite a few different things, as you can see on the screen right now. We'll also be diving into our real-world fuel economy, as well as getting our Kentucky sound level reading. But first, we do want to start with a hard acceleration.
All right. That's an acceleration to 60 miles per hour. So, this powertrain, I think, is a big point to discuss. when it comes to this new Traverse, because it's a big change from what you had previously. So you used to have in the last generation a 3.6 liter V6 engine. Now, like a lot of the competition, this is switched to a turbo 4-cylinder. So to remind you, it is a 2.5 liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine with 328 horsepower. Now, 328 horsepower is really quite good for this segment, and this is the standard engine option, so you have a lot of power on board. In some cases, depending on which competitor you might be cross-shopping with, this is like 40 horsepower more than a number of the competitors, so it's really good in terms of the overall power.
Yeah, I think about like a base Grand Highlander would just have the 2.4 turbo, and that's 275 horsepower. So like you said, significant differences between this and some of the rivals. Now, overall power that, I experienced this week driving this vehicle, I was very happy with it. The only thing I will say about it is that all of us, we just thought the engine it's just a little too loud. When you really get into the throttle, and even under, honestly, normal acceleration, it makes a lot of noise.
Let's listen to this. So that's not full throttle. That was about half throttle. And we're telling you that power is very ample, right? It is ample. But it doesn't sound like it's ample. It has a way of being like disconnected, I guess, from reality. You have plenty of power, you're accelerating quite quickly, but it sounds like the vehicle is straining under its weight. So it's a weird kind of disconnect there. So let's go ahead and talk about the other element of the powertrain. That's the 8-speed automatic transmission. Overall performance of this transmission, perfectly satisfactory. For the most part, you occasionally get maybe a slow shift, but otherwise it's very smooth. It's kind of just blends into the background.
Yeah, you have the option of all-wheel drive on every single version besides the Z71, where that is standard equipment. But we're just
that's a torque vectoring all-wheel drive system, by the way. And if you want to see us do some mild off-roading, we actually have a dedicated video with that Z71.
Yeah, we filmed a lot of Traverses, so if you want to see the different models, you can find that. But now let's go ahead and dive into ride quality now that we're just kind of cruising down this highway section. Now, throughout the past week, I've been very pleasantly surprised with the overall ride of this vehicle. It definitely is very comfortable. Now, there's a couple things to talk about. You probably saw on the outside that we have the large 22-inch alloy wheels here on the RS trim level. That's standard equipment on this one and the High Country. And the thing I'll point out about that is that's a really big wheel size for this segment, and it does definitely let in more intrusion than some of the rivals when you hit bigger bumps in the road. I really noticed the wheel size when I hit a pothole or like an uneven part of the pavement. It does let in some intrusion, which is not really the case with a lot of the rivals because they do have smaller wheel choices.
Yeah, so kind of the way that we were describing it is that pretty much everything in this segment, rides really nicely. So if you're going to go for the 22s, you're probably going to be more on the worse side of nice, but still have a pretty nice combination. I would definitely just suggest, if you're interested in this vehicle, go for a test drive. Take out maybe an LT with 18-inch alloys, and then an RS with 22s, and see which one you want.
Alrighty, and we are speeding up to 55 miles per hour, so I'm going to go ahead and toggle us down to fan speed 1. I know a lot of you guys have been waiting for the sound level reading for a long time because our previous one was out of state, so this will be our official sound level reading. Great. 54.9 decibels is what we have settled in at in this 2025 Chevy Traverse. Now, I don't have to sit here and guess how it compares to the competition because I can find that at carconfections.com/sound level reading. Certainly, we have reviewed everything in this segment. Now, as a matter of fact, that is going to put it on the quieter end of options in the segment. It's not quite the segment leader. Certain models that would be better than that would be the Acadia. That makes sense. And then also the Volkswagen Atlas and Mazda CX-90. So keep that in mind. But overall, that's a really, really quiet cabin. I will just point out once again, I think it's really quiet except for when you're accelerating. That's when some of the noise comes in.
Yeah, maybe that makes it more noticeable in that way as well. But we're turned here onto a back road, which I think is a good time to talk a little bit about dynamics. You saw the exterior. It really implies that this is a very sporty SUV. And with the RS trim, you do get a special sport-tuned suspension. However, it's not a super big difference between this and the other models. Ultimately, Traverse is very comfort focused.
Yeah.
So take that away when you're shopping for this vehicle. It's going to be very comfortable no matter which trim level you choose. When we go around this corner here, you're going to notice pretty good amount of body roll.
Yeah.
That's to be expected. The steering is also very lightweight.
Yeah, and I think the thing to keep in mind is that this is a big option for the segment. I think this might be the longest choice that you can get in this midsize segment at 205 inches long. And now it's time to discuss fuel economy. So with this 4-cylinder, you're probably curious, is it really going to improve fuel economy a ton over the previous V6? The answer to that is actually no. We do get some power improvements, but the fuel economy is going to remain mostly the same. 23 mpg for front-wheel drive or 21 mpg combined with the all-wheel drive version of this vehicle. Also worth noting is that there is not a hybrid variant, no other powertrain choices besides this setup. Now, what's our real-world fuel economy that we experienced over the last 7 days? Well, we've driven about 185 miles, so that's a good amount of driving to give you a good sample size. And what we've been sitting at is about 18.8 mpg. Now, the thing I want to point out about this fuel economy is, first of all, we filmed the car, so part of the filming process is leaving the car idling for a bit, and a lot of that was city driving, so keep that in mind. That means that it's going to be sitting a little bit lower than what the EPA is suggesting fuel economy wise, but it's not going to be massively different, so I don't think it's anything to be concerned about. Just know you're not going to get as good a fuel economy as a Grand Highlander, that's for sure.
And definitely not if you factor in that has hybrid options.
And now let's get into our slam dunk and airball, which is our favorite and least favorite element. Drew, why don't you kick us off with the slam dunk?
So the slam dunk definitely is the space. I'm not going to go through all that again, but this thing is positively huge, and it really stands out against the competition.
Yeah. On the airball side of things, what we're going to say is kind of specific to this 2025 model year, but the addition of the high country trim level is something that we are very happy to see. However, it really doesn't elevate your experience too much. The cabin is going to still be the same level of niceness, really, and actually it costs less than the RS. So it's an interesting decision from Chevy here to kind of position the high country as they did for this model instead of giving us a legitimately more luxurious version of the Traverse.
Yeah, the first time we reviewed it, we thought, you could have a little bit of extra nice things in this cabin to compete against the nicest things a Telluride or Palisade or something like that. And the high country still isn't really delivering that because it doesn't change that much overall.
Lastly, when it comes to your warranty, you have a 3-year, 36,000-mile basic warranty and a 5-year, 60,000-mile powertrain setup. You do also get a few complimentary service visits. And now let's discuss pricing for the 25 Traverse. We start at around $40,600. Now keep in mind, that's going to be up a little bit because we did remove that base LS trim level this year. The high country actually starts less expensive than this RS, interestingly enough, $53,600, and then this RS is $55,400. Now if you want one with all the options, you can see the price on the screen right now for this particular model, but we're sitting at around a $59,000 price point. Now if you're looking to buy a Chevy Traverse or any new vehicle, we would encourage you to go to carconfections.com/newcarquotes. Now, the reason you do that is because we have a tool on our website that will connect you with local car dealers in your area to get you the best price. It's also going to give you access to invoice pricing information, which is a great tool for dealership negotiation. If you'd like to take advantage of that, a link is provided in our video description, and we also have a pinned comment at the top of this video. But buying a car is about more than just the original MSRP, so let's dive into resale and reliability. So first up, let's talk about resale value. As an economics graduate myself, Drew and I took the time to develop what we think is a good estimate for this Chevy Traverse's potential resale value. We estimate that after 5 years and 60,000 miles, it'll be worth 54.7% of original MSRP, and after 10 years and 120,000 miles, 20.4%. Now, it's worth noting those are pretty good numbers. It's above industry average for all vehicle makes. However, it's not quite as good as some of the Japanese brands such as Toyota and Honda.
Now, we've also done the same for reliability by developing the Combined Reliability Index. This takes into account several studies from trustworthy sources and combines them in a way that paints a more holistic picture. In this regard, Chevy is one of the top-rated brands for overall reliability, well above the industry average.
Now, if you'd like to learn more about our resale values or reliability data, as well as our methodology, be sure to go to carconfections.com/resale and carconfections.com/reliability. Buying a new car is a big decision, so you want to make sure you're making a smart purchase, especially if you're cross-shopping between different vehicle brands. And guys, that's going to be all for our in-depth review of the 2025 Chevy Traverse. If you enjoyed learning about our 7-day impressions as well as all that's new for 2025, we'd really appreciate it if you hit that subscribe button down below. By subscribing, you're going to be a part of our Car Confections family. We have a lot of fun on this channel. I promise you won't want to miss out. Also, if you're looking to buy any of the vehicles in this segment, you can go check out a couple reviews on the channel as well, because we pretty much review them all. If you're already a fan and subscriber, thank you so much for your continued support, and we'll catch you next time as we sample more of the latest automotive delicacies.